Hi, welcome back to Missy's Imaginings. Before we get into our project today, I have some fun news. Many years ago, probably 17 years ago at least, when I first found out about Tonner fashion dolls, I had purchased a bunch of Barbie sewing patterns at Joann's. And in those days, it would be, the sale would come on, it would be 10 for $1. So you could get patterns for $1 on sale. And so I went through the books and I bought all these patterns. Well, I got home and I was sewing Barbie patterns for my niece. And I took one of the patterns and I pulled the pieces out and I thought, wait a minute, these pieces are way too big for a Barbie. And I thought, oh, well, this is some kind of fashion doll, but I don't know what these are. So I stuffed the patterns back in the envelopes, put them in a drawer, and didn't look at them. And so then, 15, 17 years ago, I thought, I wonder what these patterns really are for. And I pulled them out of the drawer because I was cleaning, and I thought, oh, well, I'll go on eBay and see if you can even get these kind of dolls. Well, that was the beginning of the end. So I first discovered about Tonner and that the dolls were still available at that time. He was still making dolls, and I was immediately hooked. I thought, these are great. And so I took out all those patterns that I had purchased and I started sewing clothes and buying dolls. And then I found out about a doll show, and I had never heard of such a thing. And one of my clients that I've done some custom work for said, are you going to be at the doll show in Portland? And I thought, I didn't know there was such a thing, so I checked it out. And the first doll show I just went as a customer and as a buyer, collector, and I thought, I could do this. I think I could do this. And so that was the Crossroads doll show. And so I got an application for renting a table and started in. Well, while I was there, I was looking at the tables and finding all the really cool things. And that's when I was first introduced to BJDs. So that's kind of how I fell into this. And of course, for me, it was just another opportunity to sew. But getting back to the Tonner things, when I was looking online for the Tonner things, once in a while things would crop up with doll cases. And I thought, oh, look at that doll case. That's so cool, because I love organizational tools, and I love doll cases. I love doll trunks. And of course, the great big Tonner trunk was at that time way beyond my budget, and so I developed my own doll cases, which there's a couple on eBay, and I have fun making those, but secretly, I always wanted a Tonner one. Well, lo and behold, about a week and a half ago, a Tonner case came up on eBay with a very low buy it now price, and I must have come upon the listing when it was, within minutes of being listed, because no one had put a bid on it or bought it, obviously, so I did. So, here we go. I don't even know if I have room here, but, dun 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 dun, here it is. I'm so happy, and it's so much bigger than I thought it would be. So, let me get right here where we can see it, but it is very scuffed. It's very loved, which is fine, and that's probably the reason, for the low price. And I'm thinking that I want to refurbish this. I'll see if I can show you the inside without knocking everything down. Here we go, because it is enormously heavy, but here we go. Here's what the inside looks like. So it's in really nice shape and really loved shape. So I'm very happy with my purchase, but I think I'm going to refurbish by putting in insets that could easily be removed, because I don't know that I want to permanently alter the inside of the case. So I'm going to put inserts, probably printed colored inserts of some sort, in the doll spaces and in the closet space. This piece can come out, so the glue has worn and it's not stationary anymore, which is fine. I kind of like that option. So, and then the mirror, obviously, there we go, needs to be adhered. It looks like, you can let me know in the comments, there's like a little thing stuck here. I don't know if someone did a DIY for a little perfume bottle or if that actually comes on the case, but one is broken off, so I'm going to remove those. Came with a few hangers, which is nice. I already have some Tonner hangers. So anyway, that's what I think I'm going to do to the inside is to make like insert liners. Then on the outside, because it's kind of scuffed, it's not like I can really ruin it. So I think what I'm going to do is to spray this down with a matte spray like I use on finishing face-ups. And I think I'm going to paint it. I'm debating. I think I'm going to do a rag painting and marbleize the case. And I'll have to have some kind of a color that won't be too far off with the handle, because I don't want the handle to clash. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm looking at doing. So when I finally get into this process, I will make a video and bring you along, because I think it'll be fun. And I'm so excited about that. So that's my big news. And then while I was shopping, the other thing I found is here in Oregon we have a store called Ross Dress for Less, and they have a lot of discounted designer fashions and makeup and whatever. So I found some really pretty little hair clips that are tiny, which are great for doll size, and they're plastic, but they have the look of precious stone, not gemstone, but like jade or marble or quartz, that kind of a stone. And so they're not super clear, you know, like a ruby or a sapphire, but they're really pretty, and so they'll look really nice with the project I'm going to do today, which is a kimono set. Now, I will preface this by saying I have no idea what I'm doing. So please don't be angry if I do something that is not what a real kimono would have, because I don't know. So I've looked at other things online of different photos and different styles, and I kind of came up with the design that I wanted to make. So it won't be truly authentic. I will make no claim to that, but I think it'll still be fun. And then if it works, then I'll go ahead and put the pattern on the website. What I decided to try is the undergarment will have the skirt of the undergarment that will show underneath the kimono. So I used the corset pattern that we did a while back, and I developed a skirt that will be attached to the corset pattern. So I have that ready, and that will be the underneath part. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pleat the skirt in the front and the back, so that where the kimono splits open, the pleats are going to show. And the kimono, instead of totally overlapping in the front, it's going to actually have a V shape, so the edges are going to come down at a V, and then in the inside of that inverse V will be the pleats of the undergarment. And then on the back, it'll be slightly V'd as well, with a little bit of a slight V slit, and then the white pleats will show underneath there. So I did have a hint that I wanted to try, and it looks like my light is getting really, really dim. Must be clouds outside. So I'm going to open the window, and I'm going to grab something to let you know about a hint that might help you when you're making pleats and when you're designing a pattern that has pleats. Okay, so on the pattern piece, I wasn't sure how many pleats I wanted to make or how best to measure. And if you're an expert at pleats, you'll probably say, well, this is kind of silly. And that's okay, I have no problem with that. But for me, I wanted to actually fit it up against the bottom of the corset to make sure that my length, once it's sewn and the pleats are in, that the length would match the corset when I went to put it together. So a simple way is, if you get a strip of fabric, this is one of my quilting scrap pieces, and I decide that the edge where the machine edge of the fabric would be my center. So all I did is I decided what my pleats wanted to be, and I went ahead and I made a pleat on that edge, and then I pinned it down. Then I made the next pleat and pinned it in place. Whoa, and I'm dropping pins on the floor. That's not good for my toes. Then pin another one, and in total on the front on each side there will be 7. I wanted 7 little pleats. These pleats are a little over 1/8 of an inch in depth, so you just continue pleating that, and here we go. So for this example I'll put in 5, so I've got one more to do. So there we go. I simply fold it over, make my little pleat, and put a pin in it. There we go. So then I would take this, here this will work, and say this is my body or whatever, and I place it on just to make sure it's how I want it, how it would fit, you know, and you kind of judge, okay, my side seam will be here, and these are where I want the pleats. So I think, okay, so I like that, that's what I want to do. So then I put a pin in where my side seam will be. So now back to the pleats, I look at the folded edge, and I'm going to have to put on my glasses so I can see what I'm doing here. There we go. Oh, that's better. So then on the folded edge of the pleat, I put the pin from the inside of the fold, and just, there it is, and pin right there. So I know that's the front edge of the pleat. Then I come to the next pleat, and I put the pin, the inside of the fold, pin there, come to the, and I do it all the way across, and I'm just marking the front edge of the fold of the pleat. I go to the next one, just mark, put that pin in the front edge, clean it out a couple times so my pins don't fall out, and then the last one, front edge, there we go. And then what happens, which is kind of fun and kind of cool, is you've taken the time, you've actually fitted it to, you know, whatever you have, but now when you open that up, this is how long your fabric would need to be, and you've marked where the front edge of all your pleats would be. So you know that you just are going to fold that to the center and pin it and sew it down. Then you're going to fold that to where the next pleat starts and pin it down. Fold this edge to the next place where it starts and pin it down. So when you actually make your pattern, you know exactly how long your piece actually has to be, and you know where the front edge of each of those pleats will be. And if you want to, you can kind of divide up with a ruler and make sure they're a little more even than just doing it by hand. But then you have an actual length, so you know that that's going to fit your pattern. It's going to do what you want it to do. So it's just kind of an easy cheat way if you want to make pleats and you want to pre-fit it, but you don't want to mess with a huge big bulky piece of fabric and you're not quite sure how to measure and compensate for the length of inside the pleat, the outside of the pleat, and then you move on to the next one. So if you haven't ever done pattern making and it's all still kind of new, it's just a really super quick way to design your pleats. And I'm knocking stuff all over the place here. But anyway, so on to our kimono. It's going to be a really pretty cherry blossom fabric that I found at North Carolina Company through Etsy. So if you like the fabric, that's where I got this fabric. And it's a really pretty high quality, like cotton fabric for, I guess, for quilting or whatever you want it to be, but it's just really, really pretty. So I'm going to use this with a combination of a white on white print that's real pretty, and then, oh, my voice is getting all froggy, and then another pink that's going to be the accents for the edges of the sleeves, which will look like this when we're done. So it'll have white edging and pink edging on the sleeves and on the neckline, and then the white underdress underneath. So I'll get the machine ready with white thread, the sergers ready to go, and we'll go ahead and get started. As much as I love the beautiful fabric and I want to get into the fun pretty stuff, I want to get the undergarment done first. So this is the corset dart pattern that's already available on the website, and I'm going to use that as the top part of the dress. So I'm going to get the darts placed onto this fabric, put the darts in. Then I will go ahead and on my skirt pieces, I didn't have enough fabric to actually place my fabric on a fold, so I had to actually piece it. So I folded it in half and added seam allowance so that that could be pieced together, and I've marked my pleat lines. I'm not sure about this one, but I'm going to mark my pleat lines and get it all pinned. And then once it's pinned, I will measure it against the corset to make sure it will actually fit. And then I'm just going to attach the skirt to the corset, and it'll be sewn up the back probably to about 2 inches shy, and then attached to the corset, and then it'll close in the back with snaps. So as far as doing the corset pieces, that's going to be just like in the corset video. Then on the skirt pattern, I'll go ahead and speed up the camera while I put the pleats in and put that part together so you can watch that happening. And we'll go ahead and get started. have all the pleats pinned in the one side of my skirt. So now I'm going to press this, and I've also taken in the pattern piece so I can account for the dart that will be here. and I've laid this onto my pleating, matching the center fold, and it comes to the edge of the fabric, so it fits, so I know it fits. It ended up being, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pleats on the front half of the side seam, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pleats on the back side of the side seam. So I'm going to press these pleats into the fabric so that they'll be nice and flat and stay in place. And then I'm also going to pleat the other side, but that way you can see how that was done. And it's just a lot of folding and pinning, and then when that's all pressed, then it'll be nice and fancy. So that's what I did to pleat the skirt. I have to do the other side, and then to make the bodice of the dress, I have to find my, oh there it is, my corset piece. So now I will go ahead and indicate on the wrong side of the fabric where the darts are, and put the darts in, and I will go ahead and just hit, well, maybe I will cut another one so that I have a nice edge on the top. I'll probably go ahead and line the top, but I'm not going to line the skirt. So I'll go ahead and cut another one of those, put the darts in, then sew around the edge to turn it the right side, and connect this piece to the skirt. So I will be back when this is all done and pressed, and the other side will be done as well, and then we'll go ahead and adhere it to the top. Here is the skirt piece. It's all pleated and pressed. I've basted the top edge. When you're going ahead to do the pleats, I would take out the pins one group at a time as I press them, but I didn't take out the top edge of the pins until after I had basted it, just to keep everything secure for basting, because even though it's pressed, when you're sewing it can kind of tend to pull those pleats apart. So don't remove the top pins along the waistline until after you've kind of basted over them, and you can take them out one at a time, or if you have a machine like mine, it doesn't do too bad if I just go carefully over the pins. I can sew that. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the outside of my corset top, or the top of the bodice, and I'm going to sew this to this edge. Once it's on there, I will go ahead and, with right sides together, line the corset top bodice edge, and then I'll just turn this up underneath. That way, once I get it on there, so I can just hem that by hand. Also, I'm going to, once I get this on and get it lined, I will be sewing up, like I said, to about 2 inches to close the back, and then I will hem the edge and then repress the edge after it's hemmed. So that's going to be my next steps. wanted to move on to putting together the kimono coat. So this piece is the sleeve, this is the shoulder edge, this straight edge is the edge that goes alongside the actual bodice of the coat. This is the outside of the sleeve. And a lot of them are just a simple rectangle, but I wanted to add a little bit more of a shape to this one just for my own benefit. Now when you make these, if you can place this on a fold. I didn't really have my fabric folded in such a way to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and put a seam at the top of my sleeves. And when I do that, it'll be opened up, and I'm going to first be putting on the trims on the edges of the sleeves as well as on the bodice of the kimono. So the front pieces look like this, and then the back piece, the back I'll have to sew together. It'll be sewn down to here because this is going to be a slit. So I'll sew the back together, then put the shoulders together, and then put on the trim. So that's going to be my first order of business, is adding the trim to the sleeves and the front, and see how our kimono starts looking. here's our finished product. I'll open her arms here so you can kind of see the sleeve. So instead of an exact rectangle, it's more of the V shape. I just thought it'd be fun, something to try. And then the tie is just, I just took a long strip and sewed it and turned it right side out. So it's just a tube. And then the waist, I had to go to my folks's. They had a birthday party. And I got back and I thought, oh, I want to get that waist thing done. And I totally forgot to film. So here, we'll go over making the waist wrap. It's basically just the rectangles. And to make it, see, it's real simple. You just take the, whatever is going to be the more narrow decorative piece, or it could be more plain, and however your fabric works. But on this one, the decorative piece, put it right sides together and only sew the long edges. Then flip it right side out, press it, and then lay it on the right side of the wider fabric. Then put right sides of the wider fabric together with this decorative piece sandwiched between them with its right side showing, and then just sew all the way around and flip it right side out. And when you do that, then it'll look like this. If you want, you can top stitch the decorative piece to the back piece. I just put it on there so that it just gives the effect of more layers that are individual, so I didn't sew it on there. And then if you want, you can also put like hook and eye on the back to help hold it together. And I just leave it like this, wrap it around, and tie the belt around it. So you can finish that however you want. Here's the sleeves with the trimming. On the trimming, you can put whatever kind of trims you want, however many layers you want. I just added the white and pink so it would kind of look with, you know, go with the outfit. But I have written on the pattern pieces, if you want the full length of the trim for front and back, I've written the measurement of how long to cut your trim. But whatever layers you want to add, that's totally up to you. It did end up being kind of a long sleeve when I added the trim. So the pattern would work fine with no trim. It would be plenty long enough because you can see here's her hand, and then this covers right to her fingertips with the trim. So the sleeve itself would be plenty long if there's no trim. If you don't like it this long and you do want trim, you can always shorten that sleeve length just by cutting this edge a little shorter and angling it down to make that a little shorter if you wish. And then the neck trim, likewise, I've written the measurement on the pattern piece, so it's just to go up and around. And here I just did the white partial length like I did here, just for fun, just to have fun on it. The back, we'll swing her around. Dun, dun, dun. So the back is slightly a V slit because I wanted this pleated gown to show underneath. And so that's what it looks like from the back. And then on the gown, if you don't want to mess with all these pleats, there's a couple ways you can do it. So we'll remove her jacket here so you can see the undergown. There we go. And on the gown, of course, I used the corset pattern and I pleated the skirt because I wanted this to lay smooth so that when the coat is closed, it doesn't bunch underneath. You can just put partial pleats, but then this would have more fullness to it. The pleats kind of help keep it hanging straight. You can also gather that if you want, or you can just go ahead and reduce the pattern fullness by not having any gathers or pleats and just make it an A-line that measures the width of the bottom of that corset piece. So there's a lot of options you can play with it, but I just wanted to try the pleats. I just thought it'd be fun, and I like the way the pleats look against the floral fabric, so I wanted to try that. We'll spin her around so we can see the back. There we go. And so there's the back of the pleated gown. It just has 3 snaps to hold it together. So that's how it turned out. and it was a fun project. So I like how the little white gown turned out, especially. That's kind of, I don't know, I just like the pleats. I think they make it look nice and finished. So there is our shot at a kimono outfit, and I will go ahead and put the pattern on the website. If you like a more traditional sleeve and you want it to be more of a rectangle, you just make it a rectangle. I also had a little bit of an issue here. It's just a little difficult when you're sewing those and they're not actually a sleeve pattern. And so on the pattern that I'm posting on the website, I did add a sleeve allowance that comes out from the sleeve. So it should be easier for you to attach it to the shoulder, and you just match the shoulder seam with the center or the shoulder seam of the sleeve and just sew that seam. And I added on the pattern enough so you'll have a sewing allowance, so it should fit easier. And then when you sew, you start at the bottom, sew that closed up to the armpit and then back down, and you should have a little bit more success. Also, just a note on kimonos, here you can see here's the opening over the sleeve and it goes this far. So once the kimono was done, I hand slip stitched from the bottom up to this point because a kimono sleeve needs to be closed. So just a little fun fact for you, in an actual kimono they would actually hold things in there, like if you had money or your wallet or whatever you're keeping, it would drop down into the sleeve of the kimono and it would provide a carrying pouch. So there you go. So these were always closed, so that's just the ending handwork that you would need to do, is to go ahead and finish that so that you have a hidden seam and you close that. Then let's see, I think that's about all. So that's our kimono. Thank you for watching and have fun sewing. See you next time. Bye.